Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to Rejuvi 45. If you are here, you have heard this phrase called modern leadership, and you're curious about it, and perhaps it's even resonated with you. But if you're here for modern leadership, you're here because we are the people that talk about new models that work, because the future of work has already arrived. And one of those models is the belief that you can have a compassionate human leader and a fierce business leader all at the same time. Um, my name is Regina Hepp, and today I am joined by
Amela Imserovich. Thank you for having me.
You are welcome. I didn't not say your name because I don't know how to say it. I said your name because I wanted you to say it, but it's I always call you beautiful Amela, even though your name is Amela Imsirovich.
Yes, thank you, Regina. It's so good to be here with you.
I was thinking about, as we were getting ready for today's session, I was thinking about how long we've known each other, and we have known each other for, I think, about a decade. Isn't that amazing?
It's amazing. I can't believe it.
I can't either. And here's what's funny is, I mean, I am a generation or so in front of you. But when I think back to first having met you, I'm like, wow, she's got it together. And now that I think about that being 10 years ago, you had it together from a very young professional age going forward.
Oh, that's so kind of you. I still don't think so, but I'm working on it. I think we're all growing in a sense. I think
Yeah.
we've gone through a lot in the last decade, for
Yes,
sure.
we
Right?
have. We have.
Everything,
And
life cycle.
And we're going to talk about it in a really fun topic today. Our title for the Rejuvi 45 session is called Just Jump. And we have the cutest picture. We have these happy little canines, these happy little dogs who are gleefully running through the sand into the fresh, refreshing water, into the refreshing ocean. So our topic today is Just Jump. And the listeners who are either checking in with us today or watching our recording will hear this well, this will make more sense at the end. But one of the things that's been fantastic is Amela's spin on Just Jump. And I'll talk about her spin at the end, summarize it, and kind of compare that to some of the other Just Jump perspectives that we've had in different volumes of Rejuvi 45. So, Amela, before we get started, can you maybe just for the modern leadership audience, can you maybe just tell them a little bit about yourself?
Um, Yeah. So, like Regina said, I'm a Malem Servic. I was born in Bosnia. That's where my last name comes from. I've been in the States a long time, and this is really home and where I grew into what I call myself Amela, professional Amela, personal Amela, and mom Amela, student Amela, all of those roles that come with me today and kind of what has shaped me. I work in a financial industries, financial services companies for all of my career. So that's going almost in 2 decades. Regina, I've been around customers and businesses, whether it's B2C, business to customer type roles, or B2B, and now on the risk and more of the lending side as well. So it's been an interesting ride, and that's just a little bit about me. I do find myself as a lifelong learner, love to learn, love to ask questions, not afraid to ask questions. There might be some tough one that, have taught me a lesson or two, but I take it as learning. So
Yeah,
that's
I
what's going
can I can affirm that you're a lifelong learner, and you like to ask questions. You ask really, really good questions. One of the things that I think is really intriguing about you, and I think it certainly influenced your leadership journey, is that even though you work in the financial services space and you work in the financing piece of the
on.
financial services space. I mean, you know your numbers, right? you know
Mhm.
numbers, you have this wonderful ability to build relationships. You're a people's kind of financial person.
I am. Thank you. Yes, I am. And that has
And
served me really well. So
yeah,
I'll take that compliment.
yeah. If you could say one of the best things that it has done for you, how would you answer that question?
Uh, just probably being a consultant to those around me,
Hmm.
and being in those sessions where if it's benefiting me, the consulting of it, or probably benefiting someone around me, is just being there to consult, to get advice, and to be um, to understand how maybe how this impacts a business or a person or a team.
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
or yeah,
Yeah, I also want to answer that question. I
please.
also want to answer that question about you because one of the things that I think that you are just amazing at, right, is it is so wonderful to see people who have just a fierce understanding of how finance works, of how the numbers work, of how numbers can influence our decisioning, but also to have this wonderful people capability. And I think that just being around you and watching others around you, whether or not that's customers or those are people who are on your team or those are your colleagues, you just make everybody want to just jump, right? You just create this environment where people feel like, okay, we can roll up our sleeves and we can have a really good conversation. That's just you. It's like I couldn't think of a better person to be with us today on this just jump session. So there
Thank
you
you.
go. So we have Amela here today on this session called Just Jump, where we're really talking about how the leadership developments, first of all, how the business space has literally transformed in the past 24 months, and businesses are asking so many more people to lead something, right? They're asking team leaders to lead operational lines. They're asking team leaders to lead projects. They're asking sales leaders to lead, pipe building territories, revenue generation territories. Businesses are asking more and more people to lead more and more things than ever before. And so, because of that, we have to acknowledge that the way that we develop our leaders has to change as well. And so we have to have these more open, democratized, customized leadership development plans because leadership development can't any longer be just for senior leaders. It has to be for all of these people that we're asking to lead something inside of the business. So that's the premise of today's Just Jump. So to kind of get going, I've got a couple of questions for you, Amela, and we're going to have this Just Jump conversation through these questions. So first, when you hear this phrase, or when you think about leaders in an organization, what picture comes to your mind?
Um, so for me, maybe I'll give it a picture that I usually typically wouldn't, but since we're in the Olympics time frame here, the picture for me is a team of volleyball players. And while I'm not an expert by any means, I know I'm trying to grow one. My daughter's in the volleyball, and I've seen her kind of wanting to understand and know more about each of these volleyball players. And I'm like, that's a picture that probably comes to mind. Because for me, the team of volleyball players is someone gets on a volleyball team and they think they're really good at setting on the court and just being a setter. And I don't think that's enough until you understand a little bit more about the team and other players' positions and what it takes, that everyone has to move to be able to win that game or to be able to be on that team.
Mhm.
So it's not just good enough to be a setter, because everyone has to serve at the next next time, or as they circle around, and this is initial, gaming in the game of volleyball, they have to be able to pick up and hit at any spot of that team. So to me, that's probably what I can what comes to mind in terms of the picture, a team of volleyball players.
Well, and this and this phrase called leaders in an organization, right? That's kind of what you see. And I think that I'm so glad that we took the time getting to know you a little bit at the start of this conversation, right? Because you are a leader, you are someone with strong expertise in finance, and you work inside of a financial services organization. But you're also a people's person, and you create this environment where everybody wants to just jump. They want to just jump in. And so it doesn't surprise me that when you hear this phrase called, leaders in an organization, you see an active group of people working for a common purpose, right? We've got the volleyball team, and they're trying to win that. Okay, now here's what I don't know about volleyball is, do they win a game? Do they win a match?
Game, yeah,
It's
game.
called a game. They're there trying to win the game. And what I'm hearing from you is, as those players are trying to win the game, each one of them, it's not enough for each one of them to be an expert or to understand their own role. They have to understand their own role in the context of everybody's role in order to win the game, right? That's what I'm hearing you saying. This
Right.
jump approach to leadership, right?
And when that ball comes, yeah, you got to jump. You got to jump because you don't know where it's going to come. It's going to come in the front of the court or in the back. So for sure.
We've known each other again for more than a decade. And when I first met you, you were a leader, right? You were in a leadership role. You had a team of people working for you. You were responsible for training them, preparing them, onboarding them, guiding them over time, all those sorts of things. And so I've also heard you saying this call today that you've got a couple of decades of experience. So how has this phrase called, leaders in an organization, and we know what it means to you right now, how do you think that's changed over time?
So it certainly has changed, absolutely. So regardless if I'm relating this to the analogy of the volleyball player or maybe to my experience, but to me, maybe my inclusive leadership style has been always to seek expertise and those that can help me with their contributions and understand perspectives of all my team members. Everyone has a strength and a weakness. So how do we bring that together again? And so that has served me well early on, probably bringing everyone along or bringing them to the table and asking, hey, it's not a good or a bad thing that what you may know or not know, but what comes to mind, just being open to their perspective and questions. And so to me, that was inclusive leadership at the time. Maybe I didn't call it that, but it was bringing everyone together. And so if I think about the volleyball players, and you may, like I said, you may like the setter position, but you got to be able to move on. And what I did is I couldn't do the onboarding myself. I couldn't do the efficiencies of the product myself. I needed people to come along, right, to help me out and discuss this have this impact for the whole business. And I knew how to do that, and that served me well. And that's why I think it's kind of cool to say, hey, come together, let's do this as a team, but also answer the why and some of the what's in that agenda in those settings, I guess.
It's for me, it's so refreshing just to hear you say that. And I gave some kind of markers at the start of this call to talk about how you have your own perspective about what Just Jump means. Because the way that I take this in, Amela, is, you have this picture of what leaders in an organization means to you. And maybe you weren't as skilled at being a leader 10 years ago as you are today. But what you always knew to do back then, right, was to find a way to get what you needed to know, right? Find a way to get your questions answered. Find a way to get the things that your team needed in order to do really, really well at the volleyball game. I think that's what you're telling me, right? You've
Yes.
always understood that.
Because we needed to, there were some big boulders to move,
Mhm.
and you can't do that as one person. So whether it's business growth or just leaning on them, we needed kind of all hands on deck, and it can't just happen in the bad times too. Is through that business cycle, we've seen some bad times too. It can't be just at the bad times we're tapping others, right? It has to be in the good times too. It has to come from that, including everyone, and finding those answers and finding those perspectives.
Yeah, I think that, again, I had mentioned a little earlier that I'm a couple of generations in front of you in terms of leadership. But I would also have to say that as I think about, for example, when I think about this phrase called leaders in an organization, when I think about the start of my career, like this was like, this was decades ago. But to
Mhm.
me, when I think about that leaders in an organization, I thought about it as somebody else,
Mm.
right? I thought about it as, somebody else that was maybe up the chain, or,
Yeah.
two reports, three reports kind of away from me, and so I think that over time, we've started to get to this place where more people have more experiences earlier in their career, which is what you have around. No, I'm here to help, right? I'm here to
Mhm.
lead. And so if I have questions, I'm going to go get them answered. If I need information, I'm going to go get it. And I'm certainly going to carry that information to my team so that they can be their very, very best each and every day. Do you know what I mean? It's like you're the very
Yeah.
modern definition. You're the exact definition of a modern leader, and you've been that way for a long time. It's very, very refreshing to hear.
Yeah, I too thought about the hierarchy of when we think about leadership, management roles, and things like that, but it wasn't within me. Like intrinsically, inherently, it wasn't my style, and maybe I thought I was gonna get something wrong and not ask questions. And honestly, that didn't serve me well. So I just kind of started taking note of this worked out pretty well. So let me keep doing it and kind of just moving that dial, and it just served me really well. So I hope that people can find ways to do that.
Yeah, so let's share that with an audience because my
Mhm.
guess is there are lots of, less experienced leaders, young leaders, novice leaders out there who, who maybe felt like I did at the start, which is, oh, we think about leaders in the organization, that's kind of somebody else.
Mhm.
So Amela, just talk a little bit about your experience about how you started to maybe serve some of those voices on the inside that said, I am different, or I, do have some gaps in what I think I need to know, but I'm just going to ask anyway. Talk about
Mhm.
your experience and what are the things that helped you to kind of grow, even though sometimes those voices existed.
Yeah. So my experience started at a bank, and I was actually a first line kind of supervisor manager for that bank. And while I knew that there's this hierarchy approach with the bank and what we needed to get done, I was responsible for other people, other frontline supervisors, and other people that kind of knew their thing, knew how to service our customer, but maybe they didn't always, you could see their puzzled faces of why are we doing this? Why are we measuring our service levels? Why do we have to be so accurate or quick? And they didn't maybe connect. Why are we taking some classes that seem intuitive and others don't? So for me, when I saw that, I heard that from different people, like why did I they don't have to do this and I do. It was an opportunity to bring everyone together and say, let's talk about this. why do we have rules and oversight and controls, and how does that come together for us to continue to deliver on this good business, right? To deliver business that has valid controls, that we're going to continue to deliver on those core values. So it wasn't just a a poster to say we're going to be here. It was more, oh, and I play a role in that. Like, it meant more for those individuals. So that was probably my biggest learning, is that people wanted to know why, but didn't know how to ask, or were afraid to ask, or um, not always there to ask. So it was an opportunity to bring that team together and explain, hey, this is how it works. This is how this business works. So that was probably
Um,
my first experience. Hmm.
Yeah, I use this phrase a lot, a model of hope. I love the word hope. And listening to you, I feel like you have always brought this model of hope to, those around you. Because I love hearing you say things like, and knowing that people do want to know why.
Hmm.
It's not
Hmm.
just enough to put the pictures and the brochures in front of them about, here's where we're going.
Hmm.
It's they want to know, why are we going there? Because that gives them, I feel like that gives them so much more meaning, and traction, and it brings value to their work, right? And people can get inspired when they understand the value of their work, the meaning and the purpose of their work. You know what I mean? I think that that's something you figured out really early on.
Hmm. Hmm.
The other thing that I think is really critical in what you're saying is focus on the customer. I'm looking at some of the audience members today and know that I had a conversation with one of them, Scott Goddard, about one of my favorite quotes from this leadership management expert, Peter Drucker, who said that businesses exist only because of the customer. And yep, I don't know that if you've ever heard that before, Amela, but I see you nodding up and down. But that's also what I'm hearing you talk about in terms of your experience and how you've helped your people, is helping them to understand the why is not only helping them to understand how the business works, it's how the business has to work in order to serve the customer. I think that is so central
Precisely.
to how
Hmm.
you do your work. Yeah, tell me more about that. Why does that resonate with you?
Um, Precisely. And it's probably because everyone, like you said, everyone wants to feel valued, but they can't always say, oh, the work I do matters, or why it matters, right? So it's more about them, or more about kind of our teams and those around us. Whether I was a manager or individual contributor role, those interactions continue to just build up or build out these ideas, that if it was ideas, if it was a challenge, or a different perspective. So for me, it was just a style of leadership that I thought, like, hey, they must have a perspective, after they've kind of after we've dealt with the fundamental. I'm here to add value to the business and to the customer. So now let's talk about ideas that make it even better, right? So
Yeah.
customer service was only one segment of that role. So now how do we up that? How do we deliver value on better loan portfolios, or monitoring tools, or any of those things? But it would be those perspectives and experiences that people would bring to the table.
How do you think about, well, before I get to think about the value of it, one of the things that I hear you talking about, which I think is such a reflection of who you are, is that, there's this one piece of leadership, and this is what you try to build in your leaders, and you have built leaders, right? Which is such a compliment, I think building successful leaders, helping others to become a leader, I know has been one of the most rewarding things in my career. But in order to do that, you have to first help them to understand the why, right? Get very
Mhm.
focused on, why things are important, and help them to grow as a human leader, right? To have those
Mhm.
relationship skills, to have those, to have comfort in their own sense of curiosity. But it's also these business skills that exist because of the customer, right? And what
Mhm.
do they need to know about the ecosystem? What do they need to know about the industry? What do they need to know about all of the dynamics, the numbers that come together in order to serve that customer? I think that what has happened is that you have achieved success because these two pieces of modern leadership have come to life throughout your career. How
Mhm.
do you emerge as this compassionate, caring, relational human leader at the same time as someone can be a fierce business leader and understand all the parts and pieces of the industry, the ecosystem that exists because of the customer? I think I don't know, what's your reaction to that? And what benefit do you think that that approach actually produces for a business?
So I love what you said, and you're spot on. When you said you know your why, you know your customer, and you they come together, and there's so much more value to offer. The benefits of engaging those perspectives so that you deliver better product to a customer, better service to a customer is certainly rewarding. But that collaboration, it grows trust. Like trust grows. So when we, like I mentioned earlier, like I don't want it to be only when things are just going smooth and we're, businesses are growing and things like that. But that for me is the trust grows. And then if the trust grows at this leadership table, whoever that is at the table or in the game, um, people can see that,
Mhm.
and it filters down, and it filters down. And what has happened to me is my customers were able to see that. They've been able to see that, where now they're saying, maybe, they're coming in and saying, well, here are the things we're dealing with. How do we think through it? So
Mhm.
back to that consultant role, it doesn't have to be just within your business. It kind of gets to grow,
Mhm.
and your capabilities get to grow, and there's that greater level of trust, and it's so refreshing, fun. It's challenging, but at the same time, there's that little fire, and you want to continue to pursuing that.
It's fun with fire, right? Fun with fire
Yeah.
in a good in a good way. But
Mhm.
I think that I love this phrase called it grows trust, because I think that when I think about the benefit of taking this two-pronged approach to leading, be this caring, compassionate, human leader that helps everyone to get engaged with the why, right?
Mhm.
Because that creates more meaning and purpose for the person. At the same time, number two, you help them to understand all the parts and pieces of the ecosystem that is there and flowing, hopefully flowing well to service the customer. When people understand both of those things, right? Then there's this trust that exists. There's confidence and confidence and trust that exists. And I believe that when you have confidence and trust because of those things, that's when everybody wants to just jump, right? And
Mhm.
so we get to
Mhm.
this phrase called, well, when you think about leaders in an organization, you don't have the stinky old stodgy picture from early parts of my career where you think
Mhm.
about, oh, that's somebody else, right? That's this group of people, probably men, and back in my day, which was sitting around some table, giving direction to everybody else. This confidence and trust that can be built because you are the compassionate human leader at the same time as you are the fierce business leader. produces this confidence and trust, and then everybody wants to just jump, right? So that their
Mhm.
phrase, when they think of leaders in an organization, it's not somebody else. It's like, oh, that's us, right? That's me. That's
All
my
of us.
volleyball
Mhm.
team.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, to me, it was that inclusive of all is what we called it,
Mhm.
as we talk about this, but that higher level of collaboration, and
Mhm.
and that's powerful. And to me, that's powerful. Just having that team and
Mhm.
having those people to go to,
Mhm.
um, to to move the boulder, to
Yeah.
do things. Hmm.
Um, I think that, just as, I have worked with you in a mentorship role over the years, you have served as what I would call a reverse mentor for me, which is fantastic. But I also know that you're at a point in your career where you provide now mentorship, not just reverse mentorship to those that are in front of you with less of their career in front of them, but you're providing mentorship now to a lot of people who have more career in their front runway. So what kind of counsel do you find yourself giving to people who maybe work inside of organizations that aren't yet modernized from a leadership perspective? What kind of counsel do you give them?
It's honestly, and frankly, it's all about how the business runs.
Mhm.
All about the how the business runs, so that they know, and we try to identify their role in the machine, in the big cog, in the business. A lot of, maybe, yeah, I'm going to call them younger mentees that come to me. They come to me from the perspective, I am doing, um, training, I'm doing this assessment or that, but they don't understand why, right? Again, if it's upstream or downstream, and then how do they impact that customer. So, um, it's just about what that means to the business. So if they are delivering training, let's say, to our customer, and they do everything that they can to prepare, if they don't understand why they're doing it, it's that value seems to be, I call it fundamental or very basic. I'm kind of putting in the work. I'm preparing for my training session. I want to do really well, and maybe anticipate questions. But if I get some, great. If I don't, do I know how to answer? So there's that little bit of fear, at the same time. But when they understand that they're doing it, the training, so that they can help sales or other functions, uh, service functions, sales functions, any other function within our businesses, to deliver a better product, or it's an adjacent to that product, or whatever the case might be, they deliver better, they deliver more, they understand more.
Mhm.
So, that's been just rewarding, because I don't know if they're afraid to ask that to their leaders or their team questions, or they come to me because of my knowledge. I'm not exactly sure, but that's been really interesting to see. And the minute they see, oh, this is how it works on this end, you can say that they're growing. Now they're bundling things and being better, right?
Mhm.
And saying, oh, I don't have that answer, but I'll get it for you, just like a leader might. Or maybe asking the questions differently, how so, or how come, so that it opens their mind, right? So they just learn these different ways, maybe, to process what they are delivering, through our mentorship, and that's fun.
Mhm.
um,
Mhm.
and I'd probably get the same mentorship, like you said, from you, whether it's through on modern leadership topics, or modern, leadership analytics, or any of those, tools, that are very innovative, I might add. Um, I get the same thing, but now, for me, it's how do you overcome this challenge? What are different levers that I can pull? So
Mhm.
it goes both ways, but being able to understand the why is probably most rewarding, and you can tell people's face kind of lights up. Oh, I get it now. So
Well,
I play
it
a
goes,
role.
yeah, it goes back to this, businesses exist because of the customer. right?
Mm-hmm.
Just to serve that customer, you have to understand the business. And so I love this word that you're using called bundling. And I think that I was actually just this morning writing a proposal for to make a presentation at a national uh, leadership development conference.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as I'm writing this proposal, what I'm talking about is the fact that the future of work, industry 4.0, it has arrived, and it brings lots of opportunity, but it also brings lots of challenges. And what we have to do is to understand, how to help all of these leaders, right? All of these leaders who want to jump into their work. We're asking more people to lead
Mm-hmm.
something than ever before. And so as I'm writing this proposal, this won't surprise you, is that we have to help prepare our leaders differently. And I think that certainly at earlier stages of my career, you would go to a leadership development thing, a program or a process, and you might learn about your leadership style, you might get some feedback. You might learn about the people side of the business. Maybe you're learning to give feedback. You're learning how performance management processes work inside your organization. You might learn about the vision of your organization, those sorts of things. But if your leadership development processes are stuck in that world called here's your leadership style, right? And they haven't yet morphed into a world that Industry 4.0 demands, which is you cannot succeed, you cannot thrive. You cannot thrive. And at minimum, you can't succeed unless you are both this compassionate, relational human leader. At the same time, you are a fierce business leader. And to be a fierce business leader, you need to know who the customer is, what their pains and gains are, and how your organization organizes to address those pains and gains. That's the new model of leadership. That's a modern leader. And the leadership development processes literally have to catch up and start teaching that way. Do you know what I mean, Amela? Because so many times we're sending these people who are so happy. They're like, oh my gosh, I got the job of my dreams, right? I'm moving into the sales leadership role. I'm moving into the service leadership role. And they might go to a leadership onboarding course, and it's helping them to understand their style or those sorts of things, which are good. But if it's not yet grounded in the work of the business, it's not going to be effective. It's not going to be valuable, right?
And to add to that, in the businesses that do that really well already, they're on that transformation innovation space, right? So you're kind of like, okay, so we're falling behind then because we got to do the program process first. It seems kind of like, why can't we do it together? Why can't we do the style, if I can call it, the leadership styles and the business together, so that we can say, okay, I don't understand this, or why are we doing this?
Right.
Otherwise you kind of fall behind, and that innovation space is moving, right? That, yeah, fast.
Yeah.
So there should be a
Well,
catch-up time.
yeah, I love that you brought up the words transformation and innovation, that unless our development processes start doing both of these things
Mhm.
that grow confidence and trust in our people, both of these things being help them have these human relational skills and help them have these fierce um, business skills, that
Mhm.
is what produces the confidence and the trust. Your approach needs to be bundled. I love that word, right? Your
Mhm.
approach needs to be bundled. It's what you have experienced a lot of it, a success with. And when you do that, yeah, you get lots and lots of people, who
Mhm.
are, like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy to be on this beach, right?
Hmm.
This is what I've worked for in my career, I have what I need. And that helps the organization to transform, to innovate, and everybody gets proud of that, right? It's
Right.
like I think that almost all people want this sense of pride. They want to be proud of their work. They want to be proud of the companies that they're working for. They want to know that they're transforming and innovating, and they want to understand their role in that, right? And that they've actually made a difference. Yeah,
That
that's
they
what's
matter,
important to
right?
it.
That they matter. That yeah, that it matters what they do, and it adds to the business and the business eco cycle ecosystem that we're part of, even though it might be a small part initially. The other thing if I can add, is if you see this in a business, in a leadership, executive leadership table, it does filter down. I mean, people see
I
that,
agree.
and that goes back to that trust, that you trust for everyone to do their
Mhm,
share, their piece, and then it filters down, and then the next level feels the same. So to me,
mhm,
that's huge.
mhm. I want to shout out something that you said, because again, it goes to this word that you're using called bundling. Everybody does need to know, want to know, why does their work matter?
Hmm.
But that's the first piece of the bundle, right? The second
Hmm.
piece of the bundle is, what difference can it make, and what difference did it make? Because if you can bundle both of those things, that's when you're going to start to see the energy, the transformation, the innovation actually exist. But it has to be both pieces. It's not just recognition of your work mattering. It's an understanding of, well, how does your work actually make a difference, and what difference did it make, right? That's when everything comes together.
Yeah.
Um, Early on, I'm looking at the time. I'm like, I looked at it once and it was at
Oh, yes.
18 minutes in, and now I'm like, it's 42. I knew this would happen, but let me just summarize by saying this. I think that everybody knows you come to Rejuvi 45 because Rejuvi is pioneering this thing called modern leadership. It's the bundled package of what we're asking our leaders do today. Be this compassionate, relational human leader at the same time as you understand the ecosystem of business that's serving your actual customers. That's a modern leader. But what I love, Amela, is how you have come into this session called Just Jump, and you brought in the beautiful Amela spin to it. Because when we did it, we did Just Jump Volume 1, I remember so distinctly. This was Videothon Ready, and Wendy Rettenmeyer speaking. And it was just this fantastic session about what it feels like to be left out from this experience, right?
Mhm.
So that was the Just Jump piece, their version of it. And then we moved to volume 2, Just Jump, where we brought in Deb Broberg from Real Time Talent. And she talked about the importance of creating this energy to talent pipelines that need to exist inside of a geography. So that was a really good perspective. But I love the fresh, modern take that you bring to Just Jump, because what you have done in your career is that you have always bundled this. You've been like the BOGO of leadership, right? Buy one, get one, right? You have always bundled this, help them to understand why the work matters, right? This caring, relational, curious approach, in addition to a willingness to dig in, understand how all the parts and pieces fit together in the system. For you, that is just jumping. And that's why when you hear this phrase called leaders in organization, it is this really fresh approach to this fresh vision of how leadership really works. Work gets done inside of an organization day. It's just like this fantastic volleyball team at the Olympics. They're not
Mhm.
only to win the game, but ultimately to get on the medal stands, right?
Right, right. It takes everyone.
Yep, it
Yep.
takes everyone,
Takes
everyone's
everyone.
work matters, and everyone's work does actually make a difference.
Mhm.
Thank you, Amela. People should know that whenever I see her, I say, Amela, beautiful Amela. So, Amela, a beautiful Amela, thank you so much for just being a part of my life, of my journey. I'm so glad that you're in it. You are an amazing leader, and I can't wait to see what you continue to do with your leadership career.
Thank you, Regina. Likewise, we connected a decade ago. We won't disconnect now for sure.
Yeah,
So
we
thank
no,
you.
we will not. So thank you everyone for being here for beautiful Amela's version of Just Jump. This session is part of the Rejuvi 45 mix called When You Move Forward, Position Both. When you move forward with modern leadership development, position it as both leader excellence and business excellence. And so we will, of course, you can see how Just Jump fit right into that. We will be back next week with a topic called thrust vectoring. It's a little bit more technical, and the analogy, so I'll wait to have someone explain that next week. But we will be back on Thursday, August 15th at 2 p.m. Eastern to cover that topic. Until then, be a modern leader and help everyone around you to be one as well. Thank you.